So to start our program, I invite Milton Little. Milton Jones probably just had a heart attack out there. Milton Little, the President and CEO of the United Way of Greater Atlanta, to the podium to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You know, if Milt was here, you are. How many times has that happened? You know? But I could not be confused with a better Milton than Milton Jones. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to introduce our speaker. Thank you, PJ. You put pressure on him to be a good speaker. You didn't put any pressure on me to have good questions. And so I'll do my best. We are honored to have Dr. Johnson here, Superintendent of Atlanta Public Schools. He's been in that job since August of 2024 after serving as Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Strategy Officer at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. He's got a background that's had him in classrooms and administration. He's been a corporate executive. We'll talk a little bit about how the sum total of all those experiences influences his perspectives and leadership of APS. He has also been Tennessee Superintendent of the Year in 2021 and a finalist as a National Superintendent of the Year. So obviously a person who's excelled in each of the places he's been. And I know I speak for this club and this community, Dr. Johnson, in standing beside you and working with you to ensure your success here. There are jobs, you know, and then there's being a brain surgeon. And then there's being a superintendent of an urban school district. And so, yeah, come on up to the stage here. Let's have some fun with some good questions and talk a little bit about why you'd even want that job. So thank you very much. You know, I gave just the briefest snippet of your career journey. Talk a little bit about how you got from where you started to here, and what skills or insights you think that that journey has enabled you to bring and put into your toolbox to lead this incredible school district.
Thank you. First off, thank you, Rotarians. I had the privilege of being the Rotary in Chattanooga. Let me clean this up. Before I do that first, let me do the real first. I want to be married for a long time. I will say probably longer than I'll be superintendent of Atlanta Public Schools. So I am here because of my wife.
Okay.
Write it down. But my wife is here. I have an incredible wife that is much smarter than me. And I've told the board this, and I mean it. If you all had a chance to, I've got two board members here today. If they had a chance to interview her, I would not be sitting in this seat. So appreciate her sacrifice on this journey. You know, for me, I think as you mentioned, I'm probably pretty uniquely qualified in regards to Atlanta Public Schools in the moment that we're in right now. I've had the privilege of working for some tremendous leaders that positioned me early on to have some experiences in public education and in leadership that frankly shaped me. My pace was not one that I really anticipated. I moved through the ranks, so to speak, pretty quickly, and have never really, and I mean this sincerely, have never really looked for a job. I've always looked for calling and assignment. And I do believe that in this season of service, it's calling an assignment to Atlanta's children and the opportunity that we have as a collective to move the work forward. So I think, as was mentioned, I've had the privilege of working in the private sector, which is unique for a traditional educator. I've also had the experience of spending some time in higher ed. So I've got this full circle opportunity to bring those experiences to Atlanta's children. and to support this community. And I also have the perspective uniquely. I've probably been a while, but I'm the son. I am the son of a son. But I have he thinks I'm his son, but I have a son that's a child, that's a student in this district. And so we get that unique experience.
So when I interviewed for the United Way job, very few questions were about my nonprofit background. Most of them were about my corporate background. So what about your corporate experience, what about your previous experiences really prepared you for what you've inherited here?
Yeah, well, I've been in the classroom. I think it's important to contextualize. I've been in the classroom. I've been a principal. So Tommy Usher's here, our chief of schools incoming, recommend to the board actually this month, deputy of academics. But you know, I've been a principal. So when I stand in front of principals, I talk principal. I am hypersensitive to that. Again, I mentioned I'm a parent, so I can speak to, you know, when we said we were taking cell phones, I could look at a parent and say, my child's got to turn his in too, right? So I've got that unique experience. From a corporate standpoint, I will say that experience refined me a ton. I went in, I was brought in as a chief of staff pretty quickly. Was voluntold that I would support the tech enterprise technology, IT, and about a 450, 500 person shop. And I am not a tech person, but I quickly became, I don't say I became a tech person, but I became aware of the importance of technology. And more importantly, you know, one of the things that I think is important in education is operating like a business. We're in the business of schools, of educating children. And so the ability to really cut across the field and see the challenges that are there, to navigate those challenges, and frankly, to have the hard conversation. I'm very direct with my board. I hope y'all appreciate it sometimes. I'm very open. I'm gonna tell them what the challenge is, good, bad, indifferent. My obligation and commitment is to children. I'm not here for the adults, so I'm unapologetic about that. Now, we want to service the adults really well because the adults are in service of the children, but I really got clear on that when I spent some time outside of K-12.
Well, thank you for that. I thought you were going to say you were voluntold to run a United Way campaign. So, you know, I think all of us want to create more Brian Johnsons. We want more Tiffany Burns to leave our schools and to excel in their future. Atlanta is not unlike a lot of places where race and place is a huge factor, or huge set of factors in access to opportunity. What's APS's plan for ensuring that every student, regardless of their social economic background, regardless of the neighborhood where they live, or even their unique learning needs, what's the promise you're going to make that they're going to leave that school district equipped for the complexities of life and of the workforce?
Yeah, so that's the challenge of urban school districts across the country. And look, you know, what you articulate is a challenge that's persistent across not just K-12, but it's persistent in when you look at earning. When you look at earning, you see a huge gap. Atlanta is no different than anywhere else, probably worse than many places, we're being frank. If we look at home ownership, we know that all those statistics ring true. And you can trace it all back to, you know, in my opinion, how student starts. I see a good friend, Comer Yates, here. We talk about literacy. We talk about, you know, really opening up the door for students and how students start. And so we're really leaned into our conversation around making sure that students are literate. And it's bigger than just reading. I think a lot of times we water down what literacy is to the point that we think it's just, you know, being able to read, which is important and a component of it, but it's the comprehension, it's the ability to speak, it's the ability to listen, it's the ability to write, it's the entire continuum or spectrum that we want to make sure that our students are positioned for, and we've got to do that early. And so one of the things that we're continuing to talk about and to elevate is the importance of really early literacy, and as much as we can, backing it up to as close to birth as we can get. The opportunity to really pour in and impact a student's trajectory prior to entry. A lot of times we're starting from such a point of deficit, frankly, that we're intervening at day one when they cross the threshold. And so when we think about so many folks in this room, I think about my own child. We had the ability to send them to quality pre-K. Twice. My son needed it twice. I've got one of those. We're not valedictorian. We forgot the notebook this morning, right, honey? My wife was telling me we forgot the notebook. But we had the ability to do those things, right? And it's important. So that's a conversation that we're really elevating across the community. We're looking for partners to lean in. 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, we need them in high quality pre-K. We need them coming as prepared as possible. Then when they get to us, we need to do our job with intentionality. So there's so many other things within there, whether it's workforce related in other places and spaces, but I would lean into literacy as the biggest opportunity that I think Atlanta has. And the last thing I'll say is the opportunity is unique in Atlanta. It's the only thing really that drew me back is, we're a major city, right? No questioning Atlanta's impact and influence. But when you think about Chicago Public or Miami-Dade or LA Unified or some of these other places, there are 200,000 and 300,000 students that they're trying to get their arms around. We've got 50,000 students. If we lean in, we can get our arms around this challenge. But we got to have some hard conversations to get there.
Well, you're talking to a club that understands literacy, that's made commitments to it, and you're talking to a number of folks in this audience who, even apart from the club, have been at the forefront of the community's work on literacy. So no doubt you'll have some partners here. Since you took over the helm at APS last August, I know it's early in your tenure, but what are you proud of? What successes, what milestones can you claim? And then what challenges surprised you as you came into the role?
Yeah, well, I don't claim any successes. I'll claim the challenges that are here for us. As far as successes, I give the credit to our teachers, leaders, staff, and frankly, our school board for setting a really strong vision. But when you look at, this milestones just came out a couple of weeks ago. We've seen some year-over-year gains, in particular when you take the bands. Literacy was stubborn across the state. Literacy actually declined in 3 through 8 across the state, in 3rd grade in particular. We saw less decline in 3rd grade, and overall in 3 through 8, we saw a little bit of increase. In math, we saw significant gains. In science, we saw significant gains. And so we're proud of those gains. We're proud of I call them green shoots that we're seeing from the standpoint of forward progression, and believe that our schools are really focused. Our school leader with principals last week, and I will tell you they're really, really focused on the right work. And we've got our arms around that body of work. I was a former chief academic officer, so if we know how to do anything, frankly speaking, it's improving student achievement. So we're confident about being able to move some of those things forward. Is it time?
No, I'm actually going to give you assistance here.
Oh, well, okay, all right. Well, thank you. I'll take all assistance I can get.
Yeah.
And so being able to move, some of that work forward. But when I say challenges, one of our bigger challenges right now is, and we're leaning into it full steam ahead, is our facility situation. So we have got to have a real conversation across the community. We've started the conversation about our facility footprint. We've got, a district that's built for 70,000+ students. And that doesn't count our facilities that are not active right now. We've got about 45 buildings that are just not counted, right? That are out there, and we've got a district of under 50,000 students, and an enrollment like many urban school districts that has declined year over year for the last decade plus. And so, many folks are in business and industry. If you're in that spot, you've got to make some difficult decisions. I see it as real opportunity, because what we have an opportunity to do is to rethink how we want to operate as a district, and to be able to make some strategic investments in things that better position us and better position our students for the future, and also, I believe, provide a more robust experience for our students. So, we've been in this kind of small school, in particular at the elementary grade band model, for some time. And frankly speaking, with those small schools, we're not able to provide a comprehensive experience because of how they're funded. They're fully funded, but that full funding doesn't allow for what you're able to provide at scale. And so, things like a half-time librarian instead of a full-time librarian, things like a half-time art teacher instead of a full-time art teacher, the list goes on and on. And so we are committed to that conversation and rethinking how we operate and how this district looks over the next 10 to 15 years, and that work is really important.
So how do you go about even thinking about repurposing those facilities, and where's the input going to come from?
Yeah, so twofold. Obviously there's the part A of the process of which schools are you going to repurpose, and then the part B to that conversation becomes, what are you repurposing them to? And so we're in the part A portion right now of what are we actually repurposing, and then what are they going to become will be the part two. We did a survey. We've got a facility task force. We did a survey that had 4,000 or 5,000 respondents in the summer. We are in the midst right now. On Friday, if you go to our website, we just released a voiceover of a presentation that looked at multiple scenarios across each of our clusters, and we'll continue to engage the public. We've got a meeting going on right now, I believe, a virtual one, and then there's one tonight, and there's one every day this week except for Friday, and several next week, and then we'll continue into September and October. But we want to move thoroughly, but we want to move briskly through the process, because children can't wait. I'm just here to tell the truth. Like, what I'm going to do is unapologetically tell the truth, and the truth will hopefully set me free or keep me a job, and if not, blame it on them. No, I'm just messing. But I'm just telling the truth, and that's where we are. We can no longer operate the way we've been operating. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We know that, right? And we believe that our outcomes should be better. The slide before that should be. I don't know how to work this.
Big green button.
Big red button. All right.
Green button.
Green button. I'll just leave this one up, right? But this conversation about being Atlanta's public school system, the possessive nature of the work, it means it's the collective. Before that slide, these two gentlemen right here, I've leaned on in my transition to take in Atlanta. And when you think about the 70s and Dr. Mays and Dr. Krim, Dr. Mays being board chair, and Dr. Krim, who was the first black male superintendent to come through, and the challenges that they dealt with in the 70s are the same challenges that we deal with now. If you go back and you look historically at the story, you'll see that the biggest challenge facing them was how to maintain and sustain the amount of schools that we have right now. At that time, same conversation right now. How to improve literacy, same conversation right now. Quality professional learning, same conversations right now. And so that's the work we're leaning into.
Let me just ask one more question about facilities. Wasn't one of those that we teed up earlier, but you talked about the possessive. What's more possessive than folks saying, this is my neighborhood school? This is my school. And how do you make the case, given the data, for changing that from my school to telling them they got to go someplace else?
Yeah, well, I don't think that's the conversation.
Okay.
I know that is where people are going to come from, though.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're right. But it's really flipping our thought process around the conversation. What we want to make sure that we provide is the absolute best academic experience for every single child, right? You can do that on this side of the street or that, like the place doesn't matter as much. And also, I would say, there is a conversation to be had as to, and I think this is where the energy has to be, what is the highest and best usage of the facility. So, it's not a K-5, but what if it's a regional early learning center that is focused on PK3 and PK4 that's for your cluster, right? What does that begin to look like? Or, hey, it's not a K-5 school. Your students are going to actually have a more robust experience, and also we're going to leverage this for affordable housing. We're going to, partner to make sure, and also make sure that our teachers, who we're really focused on, we set a bold goal by 2030 of having an average teacher salary of $100,000. But we also know that $100,000 doesn't go a long way these days. And the ability to afford a house or a property in Atlanta is like, it's tough. And so we look at 50% of our teaching force that lives outside of Atlanta, because they can't afford to live in Atlanta. And guess where their kids go to school? Outside of Atlanta. And guess whose kids usually, anyways, do pretty well. And so all these things are interconnected, right? And so when we start thinking about why enrollment's declining, like all these things are interconnected: affordability, home ownership, the ability for our educators. We got 8,000 employees. When we get ready to close schools for snow, if we start on a 2-hour delay, it's not about what's happening in Atlanta proper, right? I've got to think about what the streets look like in DeKalb. I got to think about what the streets look like in Marietta City. I got to think around the continuum, because more than half of our employees live outside of Atlanta. And so all those are the types of, when I went to school, I had a teacher that wasn't even my teacher that lived 3 houses up. Her daughter happened to be in my class. Just the fact that this young lady's mother was a teacher kept me on my toes, because I felt like she knew every other teacher across the school district, right? And so we've got to get back. When we talk about getting back to the basics, those are the basics that we're talking about. It's the fundamentals of making sure that we have a community that is operating the way it's supposed to operate.
So speaking of fundamentals, beyond the traditional sort of measure of success, high school graduation, how will you and how is APS defining student success?
Yeah, so outcomes will matter. Outcomes matter to this board. So as you said, the fundamentals, those are a big part of the fundamentals. But to your point, one of the things I told the board is graduation rates over the last several years across the nation have gone up. And they will increasingly, just being honest, they will increasingly go up. You won't see graduation rates go backwards, because people have figured out how to put in enough programming and supports to get most students across the stage, right? The real measure for us, and I believe for most districts, is what are we doing from a, obviously, 4-year college going? Georgia State in the house, and give them a shout out. We absolutely want our kids to go highest and best, but we also want our kids to have certifications, credentials, workforce opportunity, understand where the job market and the job opportunities are. And so for us, it's providing more robust opportunities in CTAE. It's providing more robust opportunities in fields where students can earn a thriving living. Not just to make it living, but understand how to enter and how to exit. And when we talk about Atlanta's children in our public schools, so many of our kids, they haven't seen it for the first time. Like many of your children, my child, like they're gonna have an exemplar to look to and say, Dad went and did this. I was in Phoenix Academy. Y'all know where Phoenix Academy is? It's the old Crim High School, and that's where we have alternative, school students. And I was there last Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it was, Wednesday. And anytime I'm there, we do our principals meeting there. But anytime I'm there once a month, I spend some time. There's a gentleman that's there, and I talk to many of the students that are there. And these kids are kids that come from really challenged backgrounds, really challenged experiences. They don't understand the entry and exit. They don't understand how to even acquire a meaningful job, earning a meaningful wage. And so we see that as our responsibility. The part A is you're extremely credit deficit because you may have had some type of criminal experience or whatever it is that's put you in this spot. I almost believe the worst thing we can do, I don't say literally the worst thing, but if we just graduate that student like we haven't done our job. You know what I mean? So that's where the work is and opportunity is for us.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Switching subjects, I don't think I have a week of work without a conversation about AI. You know, what's AI going to mean for the social sector? You know, how are you using it for predictive impact data and fundraising and the host? You know, AI and APS. Preparing schools, but preparing students, but also just what's the world of AI mean for APS and educators?
Yeah. So more broadly for education, I believe it's going to it will position us, if used appropriately, it will position us to become even better for our students. There's an argument to be made, right? Unequivocally, I think it has the ability to potentially make teachers' jobs more efficient. To make them even potentially more effective, in particular when you get into some grouping and some different things. There's some definite opportunity from the adaptive nature of AI and the way those language models are used. I want to be clear that nothing, in my opinion, replaces an excellent teacher. There's no technology, in my opinion, maybe old school, but I don't believe there's anything that replaces a really high quality teacher. But the arguments to be made in AI's ability, and it already is, to enhance our teachers and make them more effective and efficient, make their jobs even more doable, make the learning more adaptive, et cetera, I think are without doubt going to be there. And then from an operational side, it's already having some impact on, you know, how we operate and function.
Well, sounds exciting. So looking forward, you know, what 2 or 3 priorities are you really going to be pursuing? And then I guess the question is, how can this Rotary be most helpful to you being successful, helping the children be successful, helping the school system be successful?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, if I had to say 2 or 3 things, I've obviously talked about literacy. It will continue to be one, right? We've got to make sure that our students have and are positioned to be literate, period, end of story. Secondly, I would say opportunities around workforce development. When we start to think about kind of the continuum for students and positioning them to be successful, whether they're going to a 4-year onto a terminal degree or they're going directly into their field, we've got to be really, really intentional with providing that experience. And the third thing is obviously operational. I did mention, this is the first time I've talked to a group and not mentioned it, but we had a $100 million deficit that we started out with this budget cycle. That's now ballooned to $130-ish million deficit because of the commercial index didn't come in as nearly as good as we anticipated, right? And so we navigated the $100 million. We made significant reductions at the CLL. We'll navigate the $30 million, hopefully, in a combination of continuing to do work at CLL, but then also, taking our pension payment out just a couple of years to allow us a little bit of room. But we can't continue to sustain that way. That's the secondary reason why we're leaning into the facility conversation. We've got to get our operational business intact. I always joke, my son's a baseball player. When there's runners on base, a lot of times the batter will come up and they'll say, right man, right spot. And I'm the right man in the right spot right now to do the entire continuum. We've got to move academics, but we've got to tighten up operationally. And these are really difficult conversations that we've got to lean into together if we want, and I believe we do, Atlanta Public Schools to be all that it should be.
So before we open it up for questions, let me ask you the last, and I didn't tee you up for this one either, so don't hate me for that, but one fun fact about Brian, because you're not working 24/7, 365. Tell him a little something about you outside a superintendent.
Yeah, my wife can vouch for you. I'm super boring. She can vouch for me. I'm like a super. So I guess the most fun fact about me is I'm innately an introvert, right? I think I can communicate okay, and I'm comfortable, talking to a group, whatever. But I'm innately an introvert. So You know, I'll go to some of the evening things. I go to the stuff I have to. Like community meetings, I have to go, okay? But I'm not going to be your guy that's going to be at your events. I'm just being honest. Y'all didn't hire me for that, right? If y'all did, come on, honey. They didn't. I don't believe they did, right? Like, and look, you can want a superintendent. Let me just tell you. You can want a superintendent that's more concerned about being on the front of the magazine and at every evening event, or you can want a superintendent that knows how to do the job, is going to do the heck out of the job. I'm that guy. I'm not, and I'm unapologetically clear about like my order of my work, right? So I'm boring. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a superintendent, and I'm gonna do those three things exceptionally well, unapologetically. And then know I care about you, I love you. If you know, invite me to your thing. It might be a good evening for me, probably not, but I'm just real. Like I'm comfortable with where I am. So that'd be the fun fact. I think a lot of people see you out and about and think, oh man, that's just not. Carl will tell you. Carl's come in. He's like, Doc, we got to go to this. I'm like, brother, I'm not going. No, you're not hearing me. That's why I hired you. Yeah, but the work, I'm real clear about the work.
I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah,
Kathy?
me too. Carl, good luck with your job. It's going to be a hard one. So any Rotarians, please, would like to come to the mic and ask a question, please do.
Welcome to Atlanta, Dr. Johnson. I'm a product of the Atlanta public school system, and one of the things that I felt very strongly about is that we've had some great superintendents here in Atlanta, and one of the problems is they haven't lasted very long. And the problem has been that the board has gotten rid of them in a short period of time, but not allowing them to achieve their vision. My question is, how do you believe that this board will give you the opportunity to achieve your vision?
Tell me your name, what school you graduated from?
My name is...
Uh-oh.
Nice catch.
Yeah.
Nice catch, Julius.
There we go. Julius Coles, Booker T. Washington High School, 1959.
Wow.
Had 5 valedictorians and 2 salutatorians in my class. And the top student went to Harvard, and every one of those students did well in school. So it's not to say that the Atlanta public school system can't produce good people and carry people to the Ivy League or anywhere else they want to go.
That's right. My
mother was also in this school system for over 30 years. So I'm looking forward to you achieving your vision.
Absolutely. Like, I can be very frank because I've been able to do this job before, and just like I just shoot it straight. Superintendencies are unequivocally, I believe, and I'm not saying just because I'm in it, I've said it because I've been out of it and now I'm back in it. They are the toughest, arguably, chief executive job that there is, because your boards are elected. And they have a constituency. Right? And so unlike a corporate board, I've seen the corporate world, unlike a corporate board where most of those folks are appointed and, they come from all different walks of life, right? And so fortunately I have a great board, and I will tell you what gets a lot of superintendents in trouble is they don't communicate with their board. I talk to Ken Ziff every Tuesday and any other time. I talk to Cynthia Briscoe Brown every Friday morning at 10, and then the other 7 I talk to all, you know what I mean? Like they have their days and times too. And so we stay in constant communication. Ken called me on Friday about something, and we started texting. I had another one to tell you. I put them both on the call, and I said, all right, guys, we're going to do this. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think is wrong with it and what the challenges are, but I defer to you. Like, I'm just there, right? Unapologetically. I'm just there with them. And I'll stay there with the board. Now, here's what happens, right? I want to be really clear about this because the community needs to know this. This is where community leans in. I'm going to say it. Education has gotten so incredibly political that children suffer. Folks get behind candidates for specific causes that have nothing to do, in my opinion, with really improving the outcomes for kids. My opinion, I'm just being honest, because people want control. We are a $1.8 billion behemoth in some people's eyes. And instead of like the just cause or the purpose of what public education is, everything else becomes the purpose. So, people get mad because the superintendent didn't agree with this, so they're going to run the candidate that's going to beat them. You know what I mean? And that's what not this school board. They're awesome. I'm being honest about that. They really are. But many school boards in public education, that's what it becomes. And so that's why you see the meat grinder of superintendency. And you're never able to continue. Alonzo Krimmer's aspiration, more than 15 years, he was superintendent of the school district. The last time Ken Zell was in my office, he walked out and pointed at the amount of time that he got to serve as superintendent. And you look at most urbans, it does not happen. And so you're exactly right. I don't know how to solve it. My board will change in January. There are 4 seats? You change one board member, you change the board. And so we'll have to restart our work, right? That's just a part of what these jobs are. Just what they are. I won't say anymore, I will get in trouble, but that's just what they are.
Well, Superintendent Johnson, I'm so inspired by your conversation today. A lot of confidence, and I appreciated the kitchen cabinet talk we had about a month ago. So I think Pat's in here somewhere. Through Leadership Atlanta, she shamed me for having my son in an independent school and being a resident of the city of Atlanta. So I want to say that, as I told you today, my son is now an APS student in high school. Realized through that conversation, what kind of statement I'm making, because through dual enrollment, many of my students are your students too. So I know President Zach is still here. So my comment is this, and we all want to see you successful and provide any support we can provide. So my general question is, how can higher ed help you as you get established?
Absolutely. Thank you all for the partnership you provide, but we would like to accelerate it and do even more. So where there are opportunities to position our kids and give them exposure, I think it's both and, right? Like we need to hear from you all, and this is speaking in general to higher ed. We want to hear from you all about how we can better position our students to come to you and be ready and be successful. Where are the specific gaps and what are the things that we could do together? And then also, the quicker we can get students plugged into your campuses, the better, because we believe that creates a pipeline. So we'd love to see middle colleges across Atlanta where there are, cohorts of students that are actually spending their junior and senior year. I don't have this thought out or anything, or spending their junior or senior year on the campus, taking classes, this stuff is all interconnected, because this goes back to the facility conversation, right? When you have more funds that you can use in a targeted way versus kind of the peanut butter spread that we're having to do right now, you can lean in and do deeper work. So we are excited about the work you already do, and excited about the partnership and opportunities. Thank you. Thank you for letting us serve your children too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Margie Stagmeyer, and I'm an affordable housing landlord. We also run a nonprofit called Star C, and our mission is to reduce transiency in public school systems. So talk a little bit about transiency. I know it's not something that you really can have a plan for, but talk about transiency. We see apartment communities that are near schools that have a 60-70% transiency rate every year.
Yeah, it's incredible, right? The transiency rate in pockets of our community. And in some more so than others. And, many times, students will flip-flop between 2 or 3 schools 2 or 3 times throughout the course of the school year. And so it is a real challenge. It makes it more important to make sure that there's coherent and consistent academic curricula that they are experiencing, and high quality instruction. I told principals on Wednesday that their chief responsibility, forget all the other stuff, is to reduce the variability in the quality of instruction with urgency, simply. That's it. One goal I put up on the board for them. That's their job. And if we do that across the system, if we reduce the quality and the variability of instruction, we guarantee high quality, viable curriculum across the board, then some of the transiency that students experience won't impact their outcomes. We need students going from great school to great school to great school, no matter what zip code you're in, no matter what corner pocket of Atlanta you live in. But do know that we see that as a real challenge that many of our students deal with.
Dr. Johnson, my name is Randall Kirsch. I'm also a proud product of the Atlanta Public Schools, K through 12. I want to talk about the Southern Surge and get your take on what's happening there. And for those who aren't sort of reading into this, we don't typically think about states like Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama when it comes to outsized educational gains among public school students, earning national attention. That is not who you think of on that list, but that is what's going on right now as we speak, and it's incredibly exciting. It defeats so many mythologies about those states, what schools can do, the population served in those schools. What are they doing to get the kind of gains that are getting the attention they're getting?
Yeah, so, many of the states you're talking about, and I think you see Georgia doing it. I came from Tennessee. It really is this focus on some of what I mentioned, right, just now. It's the high quality instructional materials. It's the focus on structured literacy. It's the making sure there's deep training for teachers. All these are moves that you see, that are being legislated, frankly. And so most of these states have had some type of legislative move that has trickled to, local cities, local school districts, and the quality of implementation that's happening. And so, I believe what I see in Georgia coming in, I've been there for a year now, that many of those steps are in the works and are already underway. We've been, partnering on our teachers being trained in the science of reading, structured literacy, and really making sure that their position this last budget cycle, the board approved, making sure that we got high quality curriculum for our teachers, and that professional learning, really making sure that it's embedded. Trying to clean up assessment practices, which is a whole nother conversation as well, but really making sure that we have some alignment and we can understand how students perform. Like, all those things are what you see in those places that are getting those gains and getting those outcomes. And then they're celebrating the wins. I think it's important that wins beget wins, and that's what you see them doing, is doing a really good job of celebrating their successes.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm John Grant. I'm with ESPN. I oversee the company's HBCU portfolio and strategy. But you touched on something that stuck with me. You said that this year there are declines in outcomes in 3 through 8. Two-part question. Why? And can you talk about the downstream impact on that decline and what it could mean downstream for outcomes, graduations, as well as students being capable of entering any kind of post-secondary experience?
Yeah, so I want to be real clear about the data. So what you saw in 3 through 8 across Georgia was a decline in literacy, okay, across the board. Our 3 through 8 comprehensively had an increase. 3rd grade explicitly, which is where there's a lot of focus, the state had about a 3.5% decline. We had about a 1.3% decline. And in the metro Atlanta footprint, everybody declined. And so, look, when you see that happen, in my opinion, I don't want to call it an anomaly, but I think it's more of an alignment issue, in my opinion, that there's something off. And we've been having conversation with the state, whether it was the assessment, whether it was the standards. There seems to be a disconnect when comprehensively, right, folks have missed the mark. It's kind of like a teacher giving a test in a classroom. The way I look at it, instructionally, and this is understanding balanced assessment really well, when everybody misses the assessment item, it's usually a reflection on the teacher more so than the student. And so something's off, right? Like, all things being even, something's off. But even having said that, there's just a ton of work to do in that space, right? Like, in general, across the state of Georgia and in Atlanta Public Schools, only 1 in 3 students are proficient in literacy based on, and that's, a little bit better than that. But in general, that's about what you see across the state and frankly across the nation. And so, there's a lot of work to be done in that space. As far as downstream or looking upstream, like I choose to have an upstream conversation. And yeah, we got to focus on what's to come, but I think we need to get, frankly, we need to get further upstream. There's a good book, I think it's Chip and Dan Heath, called Upstream, and like, we need to get further. We need to get to pre-K. We need to get to, 3 and 4, like, we need to get further upstream with trying to have impact and I would add, sustaining that impact. So some of the disconnect that you see, and I can talk about academics all day, but some of the disconnect that you see is you get early learning right, and then what happens in school districts is accountability doesn't kick into 3rd grade, traditionally. This is, we're leaning into this, but so what ends up happening in elementary school is they put their best teachers where? Where would you put it? 3rd grade. So I get a great pre-K experience, and there's research that shows this. I get a great pre-K experience, and then all of a sudden I don't get as great a K experience. I get an OK1 experience. I get a little bit better 2nd grade experience, and then I get a dynamic 3rd grade experience. Well, all this that I had caught up in pre-entry, I lost. And then we're trying to accelerate and gain it again, versus taking an approach of, let's put our best upstream. And let's get everybody progressively better. Let's put the best upstream. Let's sustain that acceleration. And then by the time they get to 3rd grade, they're just used to the conversation. So again, all this stuff is interconnected. When we talk about being a district that can have an average of $100,000, it's not just about being a 6-figure school system. It's because we're going to be unapologetic about having the best teachers in front of our students, right? And we believe that we're starting to see that. We had a 20% increase, went from 61 to 81%, when you look at the number of teachers that entered Atlanta Public Schools for their first year in APS having 3 or more years of experience. So we know we're getting a more experienced teacher. Now, let's get some outcomes. You know what I mean? We're going to pay you really well to do really well, and that's been a commitment from this board, and I believe a commitment that this community has to have.
So Dr. Johnson, thank you so very much for being with us today. We welcome you to this community. We appreciate the fact that you and your administration are taking care of our children, and we will work on you with that gala thing, because it's important to Atlanta that you attend a gala or two at night. So we'll work on you. Okay, we'll pick your spots. So thank you all very much. Reminder, next week there is no meeting. We're celebrating Labor Day, and then on September the 8th, we have Carol Tomei, CEO of UPS. We are adjourned.